Welcome back and welcome to my September, where I tell you all about the books that I read in the month of September. September was a pretty good reading month for me, but I did deviate from my TBR quite considerably, so I've kind of set myself up not so well with those early October releases. I definitely wanted to read some of them in the month of September and didn't end up doing that, so what we're going to do about it, if you haven't seen my October TBR, I will leave it linked up here for you so that you can watch that and find out how ambitious I'm being for the month of October based on what I read in September. Let's start off, as always, with my ebooks, then moving on to physical books, and then always the biggest stack for some reason, the audiobooks. So I read 3 ebooks this month. I read Coming Home to Glendale Hall by Victoria Walters. I read this during the Contemporary-a-thon, readathon, which I did vlog, so you can watch that. I will leave it linked up here for you. This is Victoria's new book, and it is Christmassy, and it is set in Scotland, and it was a joy to read, so highly recommend that one. Then, as a buddy read with the lovely Hayley, I read Are We Nearly There Yet by Lucy Vine. I forgot jumping into this book just how much I love a Lucy Vine book. She says it how it is, she makes me laugh, she says things that I say, and so again, really recommend this one. I loved it, it was great. Then we have A Question of Us by Mary Jane Baker, which I was on the blog tour for. So my blog is always linked in the description box below. You can go and read my review of that one. This one is set around a pub quiz league, and I did read some of it after having just come back from my own trivia league. This one is also set in Yorkshire, which is very cool. Pub quizzing in Yorkshire would be fab. Pub quizzing in Denver, being from Yorkshire, also pretty fab. So moving on to some physical books, I sat down a couple of Saturdays ago and read some poetry. I just felt in the mood to read some poetry, and so I sat down and read 3 poetry books. I read There Are More Beautiful Things Than Beyonce by Morgan Parker, which you can see I have flagged a few of the poems here. Morgan Parker was new to me, but I got to meet her at BookCon, so I have this, and then I have her young adult novel that I also started in the month of September but will finish in the month of October. So we have that one. Then one of my favourites, Nikita Gill, I read Your Heart is More Beautiful, no, not Your Heart, that's mixing it up with the last book. Your Heart is the Sea, and I have just ordered another Nikita Gill book to read in the month of October. This one was sent to me by the publishers, so I will be reviewing this one over on the blog, but you can see I have flagged quite a few of the poems in there because I loved it. I love the way Nikita Gill writes, and her Fierce Fairy Tales and other books have some amazing illustrations in as well. And this one at the start of each section has this grey page, which I just loved. And then I rushed out to buy this one on release day from my Target because that's where I get her books from, and that is To Drink Coffee with a Ghost by Amanda Lovelace. You'll have seen this one in my most recent book haul, which if you haven't seen it, I will have linked it up above. Again, flagged lots of these poems, had to do orange to go with the pumpkins, and there's a coffee ring on the back, and I am wearing that Pumpkin Spice Life t-shirt today as well, just, you know, to tie in. Again, highly recommend this one. This one has an awesome list of trigger warnings at the front of the book, so if you're unsure about picking it up, just flick to that first list, which of course I won't be able to find, which also includes death, gore and blood, so, you know, just be aware. But if all those are fine, well, fine in a book for you, highly recommend this one. Then another physical book I read was Unpregnant by Jenny Hendricks and Ted Kaplan. I have already reviewed this one, I believe, on my blog. Sometimes the most important choice is who your friends are. And this one is actually a road trip novel, as well as being about finding out you are pregnant when you have your whole future mapped out at the age of 18 or so. So yes, I really enjoyed this one. It's quite out there. You have to kind of suspend your disbelief, because otherwise you'll go through going, this could never happen, this could never happen. But it is all part of the sense of adventure. So I really enjoyed it. It made me laugh quite a lot. It made me think, and it really is a road trip friendship book. Think Thelma and Louise. That's all you need to know. Then a book that just came out this week, but I was lucky enough to have a signed proof of, and that is Dear Sweet Pea by Julie Murphy. So this is Julie Murphy's first middle grade novel. You know Julie Murphy from Pudding and Dumpling, and this is Sweet Pea. And I just love the illustration on the front of this novel. And this one is body positive. It deals with divorce and sexuality in a really accessible way. It's very much definitely a middle grade whilst dealing with body positivity, divorce, sexuality. And there is, as always with a Julie Murphy novel, some amazing music in this book. I love that she has fabulous songs and amazing female musicians in her novel. Love this. Definitely a treat. This came out on the 1st of October here in the US. Then another buddy read I did with beautifully bookish Bethany was Colour Me In by Natasha Diaz. We read this as part of the Contemporary-a-thon, so if you have already watched that vlog, you'll have seen that this wasn't quite what we were expecting it to be. This one kind of fell a little bit short for me because the main character just has so many different things heaped on her that it was just almost quite sort of traumatic to read and quite tough to get through. I feel like we discussed this, and I feel like it could have been almost like 3 separate books, the things she had to deal with. So taking a couple of the things for one book, a couple of things for another book, and a couple of things for another book, rather than having like 8 things all happening at once in the one book. This book also has journal entries which include direct speech, which really kind of bothered me as well. So the journal entries themselves were really key and pivotal to the storyline, so I was looking forward to reading them. But then when I actually did read them, the fact that she has direct speech in her journal entries just felt a bit weird to me. So yeah, this was a Book of the Month Club pick for me, but it will not be staying on my shelf because I was a little disappointed. And these people kind of laughing on the front of the book, they make it seem like it's going to be a little bit lighthearted, and it is in no way lighthearted ever for a moment. So that's that. Then I read a graphic novel, and this was Stage Dreams by Melanie Gilman, and this is young Grace, a trans runaway, was headed west, fleeing her Georgia home and conscription into the Confederate Army, but her coach ride to California makes an unplanned stop when notorious outlaw the Ghost Hawk swoops in, shaking down its passengers and stealing away with Grace. And I just love the illustrations in this one. I think that the illustrations are fabulous, especially the dress that Grace wears in these scenes. I think it's fabulous, and I love the fact that it's all done in watercolor like that. So I read this as part of the Contemporary-a-thon as well. Even though it's not really a contemporary, I wanted to have a graphic novel in there, hence this guy coming along. Then moving on to the biggest category as always, and that is my audiobooks. So there are, I think there's only a couple on here that I don't have to show you. Only one actually, and that is The Castle on Sunset by Sean Levy, or Levy, I'm not sure, can't remember how to pronounce it. This one is about Chateau Marmont, which is obviously in, well, it straddles being in Los Angeles County and being in West Hollywood, I think. This was really interesting because I've always been fascinated anytime I've driven past it and anytime it's appeared in films or books that I've read. It reminds me of I Heart Hollywood by Lindsay Kelk, of course. And so this was a non-fiction about the hotel. The book itself was good. I think it could have done with a little more editing because it was often quite repetitive, and I think it possibly suffered because the writer is a journalist, and so it went in for editing. They were like, he's a journalist, he can write, let's not bother editing any of this. Unless it was, I didn't find out this, I don't know if it was previously published as separate essays and then just bound together, in which case I can excuse the repetition, but there was a lot of repetition in there, and a lot of gossip. It was a lot of gossip. So you'd have like some sort of fact, and then, oh, and apparently this happened, and go off on a tangent about X celebrity or Y celebrity. But it was really interesting hearing about the different generations that it's been through according to its different owners, and I really enjoyed it. So then, yeah, this is definitely the biggest stack is my audiobooks, but I think this is almost always the case. So let's brace ourselves. I could do with some more coffee. I'm running out here. In my Strand coffee mug, one of my favorites. Okay, let's go for it. Obviously, I am rereading the Shopaholic series by Sophie Kinsella, ready for the release of Christmas Shopaholic on the 15th or 17th of October, if you live in the US or the UK. So there are some Shopaholic books on here. The next book that I had on my list was Shopaholic and Sister by Sophie Kinsella. This is book 4, I believe, in the series. I think it's book 4. This is where it just doesn't bother telling me. Shopaholic Takes Manhattan, Shopaholic Ties the Knot. Yes, book 4. Book 4 in the Shopaholic series. Then obviously I read, I obviously read book 3 in the Shopaholic series as well. Where is, oh, you know what? I was like, but I've lost one of my books here, but it's in the car. That's where it is. Shopaholic Ties the Knot, which is book 3 in the series. Let's just do them out of order. And then we have Shopaholic and Baby, which is book 5 in the series. And then we have Mini Shopaholic, which is book 6 in the series, which is the one that I read during the Contemporary-thon last week. I like this edition. I think it looks kind of classier than this edition. I do like it. And I read the audiobook edition, which is a completely different edition again. Then I listened to one that I've been meaning to read since it came out and wanting to read since it came out. I borrowed it a couple of times from the library, but I had to take it back after seeing it at BookCon last year, yeah. And this is Social Creature by Tara Isabella Burton. This is a thriller set with some Manhattan elite and Manhattan not so elite, and was really, really interesting. I really liked it. I can see what all the hype is about, and I thought that the audiobook did a really good job as well, even though the hardback itself has this gorgeous satin, there's like a little bit sticking out here, like gorgeous satin cover finish. But yeah, thriller, definitely enjoyed this one. Then I listened to This Time Will Be Different, which is by Misa Sugiura, who is the author of It's Not Like It's a Secret, which is another book I really want to read. But I listened to this one and I wasn't blown away by it. It was a little bit meh. So I really do want to read It's Not Like It's a Secret, but I'm slightly put off because I didn't enjoy this one terribly. Then another non-fiction I listened to. This one is Sweet Spot by Amy Ettinger, an ice cream binge across America. But this one doesn't just cover ice cream, it covers frozen custard, it covers gelato, it covers like ice lollies and ice cream vans, and kind of goes into some other stories about food surrounding those things in the areas that she visits. Sometimes the tangents got a little bit much and I kind of switched off. I think it would have been better had she stuck just a little bit more to the ice cream, but I really did enjoy reading this one. If you are going to read this one, make sure you do have some access to some frozen custard or some ice cream of some variety. It doesn't have to be full fat. She does talk about frozen yogurt as well, which is quite interesting. Always interesting. Then during the Contemporary-thon, I read a few other audiobooks, which I have as physical copies here. I listened to Well Met by Jen DeLuca, which takes place at a Renaissance fair, which I didn't really know an awful lot about. Now I feel like I know more about the Renaissance fair world and life, and it is a contemporary romance and I really enjoyed it. There was some funny bits in here. The romance is slow burn, it's got that hate to love trope, and there are some awesome sexy bits in this one, so that's the kind of thing you're looking for. I do recommend this one. Then I listened to Permanent Record by Mary H.K. Choi, which is a guy that works in a convenience store and a girl who is super popular. She is called Pop Juggernaut. A pop juggernaut, but she is like massive on social media. She's trying to start a film career, and obviously these two come from very different walks of life and meet, and we get to find out what happens when they meet. It was sweet and it was cute, but it wasn't anything groundbreaking. I didn't like it as much as I thought I would. I kind of found myself not that excited to get back to it, even though I did read it in just over a day. I listened to it around work and around bedtime, so yeah, it was a little bit of a letdown. Again, this is one that won't be staying on my shelf, but there we go, we have to try these things to know. And then I listened to Frankly in Love by David Hume, which is another Book of the Month Club pick, and this one is a fake dating type story, and again features Frank, who is, oh yeah, two friends, one fake dating scheme. What could possibly go wrong? Frank Lee has two names. There's Frank Lee, his American name, then there's Sung Min Lee, his Korean name. No one uses his Korean name, not even his parents. Frank barely speaks any Korean. He was born and raised in Southern California. And so this is a little bit about identity as well, and being Korean American and being Korean or American. And I liked that side of it. The romance itself was a little bit lacking for me. I know this is young adult, but the kind of the real dating and the fake dating could have had a little bit more chemistry for me, but I really like the identity themes that were explored in this one. Yeah, so there you have it. You can see my September reading did go quite well, and as such my October TBR of course is ambitious. So let me know in the comments which book was your favourite that you read in the month of September. I don't know what was my favourite, not sure. I think, are we nearly? Yeah. If you really, you know, pin me down to pick one, I really loved that one. Also loved the poetry I read. I think I did myself a favour sitting down and having a poetry Saturday, definitely. I will be back with another video very soon. I have some movie reviews coming up for you, so make sure you are subscribed so that lands in your subscription feed. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed, and I will be back with my next video very soon. Thank you so much for watching.